Color in sky, Prussian blue. Scarlet fleece changes hue. Crimson ball sinks from view. Where you love like heaven. Where you love like heaven. Where you love like heaven. Lord, kiss me once more, fill me with song. Allah, kiss me once more, that I me, that I me. Well, my love like heaven. Well, my love like heaven. Color sky, Havana Lake. Color sky, rose carmethine. Alizari and crimson. Where you love like heaven. Where you love like heaven. Where you love like heaven. Lord, kiss me once more, fill me with song. Allah, kiss me once more, that I me, that I me. Where my love like heaven. Where my love like heaven. Can I believe what I see? All I have wished for will be. All our race proud and free. Where you love like heaven. Where you love like heaven. Where you love like heaven. Lord, kiss me once more, fill me with song. Allah, kiss me once more, that I me, that I me. Where my love like heaven. Where my love like heaven.
All my bags are packed, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye, but the dawn is breaking, it's early morn. Taxi's waiting, he's blowing his horn. Already I'm so lonesome I could cry. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Oh babe, I hate to go. There's so many times I've let you down. So many times I've played around. I tell you now, they don't mean a thing. Every place I go, I think of you. Every song I sing for you. When I come back, I'll wear your wedding ring. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Oh babe, I hate to go. Now the time has come to leave you. One more time, let me kiss you, then close your eyes, I'll be on my way. Dream about the days to come, when I won't have to leave alone. About the time I won't have to say
Adele, you're on mute. You're muted.
Thanks, Sandy. So sorry. Adele Nicholson here. I have the pleasure of welcoming you to our service in honor of our classmates. Thank you so much for gathering together this afternoon. I don't know about you, but when I see those precious images of our friends who are no longer with us and our beautiful Abbot campus that is now not quite the same as it was when we were there as students, I vacillate between the shiver of loss and the glow of remembrance. I am captivated in this frozen moment of recognition and by the flood of memories that follows. And I'm sure that you've had your reactions too as you looked at those beautiful photos. Before we begin, let's take care of a few small tasks regarding our Zoom platform. First, please adjust the name on your square to the name we knew you by so that we can easily identify one another as we capture the spirit of shared friendships and circumstances that were our Abbot circle. On the upper right corner of your square, click on either More or the three dots, and you'll find Rename on the drop-down menu. I'll give you a moment to do this. Also, you may wish to put your Zoom screen on speaker view, which you'll find on the upper right of your screen where it says View. While speaker view focuses your screen on each speaker, gallery view displays all of us in a grid so that you can enjoy the assortment of familiar faces. Finally, unless you are speaking, please keep your microphone on mute. And if you do speak, please mute your mic after you have finished. Now, some of us attending today may be asking ourselves why we're here, trying to remember people whom maybe we didn't know very well back then and haven't contacted over the years. Well, this sacred moment that we're creating together will spawn our collective memory of Karen, Debbie, Ronnie, Laura, Priscilla, Abby, Beth, Jenny, Jan, Cindy, and Denny. And it matters not that we may not have known them personally. When this hour is past, hopefully, we will each have a takeaway, recalling their presence and learning about them from those who did know them and who miss them. We have the opportunity to affirm their lives and be inspired by their good works. Their spirits will touch us briefly as we learn of their legacies, and with appreciation, carry forward into our lives something that they have given to us. And so now, I'd like to pass the torch and ask Janet Cohen to speak about her special friend, Denny Maloney. Janet?
Okay, here we go. Denny Maloney Pushkin spent 4 years at Abbott. You may have known her in some of your classes, on the soccer field, or in the dining hall. You may have been her friend or engaged in conversations with her. Denny was a day student, as I was. She didn't often join in school social events that weren't required. We were townies. We maintained our friendships with neighbors and childhood acquaintances. We enjoyed the freedoms that many of you at Abbott perhaps did not. We drove cars as seniors and went to parties on weekends. Some of us had parents at home who demanded that our schoolwork be done and that our home and family responsibilities were met. Our lives were parallel, but in many ways, very different. I knew Denny before our Abbott years. We were junior high school friends. We had classes together and had shared friendships. Denny was a quiet preteen. She remained a bit on the outside looking in during those early years. I spent time with her at her home in Shawsheen and later on Johnson Road. Her parents were very busy socially and mostly let us be. Denny's mom was a member of the Lawrence Kiley clan. Denny's grandpa Kiley was mayor of Lawrence for many years. Denny's dad was a social worker for the Department of Health and Families. Denny also spent time at my home in West Andover. My parents loved Denny. She was funny and smart and somewhat socially insecure. Her dog's name was Sammy. My dog's name was Bo. We spent a lot of time on the phone. One night she called my house after midnight. My dad answered, asked who it was, and was told, "It's Gladys." From then on, my dad called her Gladys. It was their shared joke. My dad had a sharp sense of humor, and Denny related well to it. In 10th grade, Linda Moore and I joined the day student crowd. With Diane, Sarah, Cindy, Linda, and me, Denny hobbled through the next 3 years. Through the chaotic late 60s with all of the social, cultural, and political changes bombarding us from all sides, we managed to grow and to grow up. In 1970, most of us went directly off to college. Denny kind of floundered. She remained at home and eventually enrolled at Merrimack College. I remember her coming to visit me at New College in Sarasota, Florida, and thinking that school would have been a good fit for her. But times were wild. She was going to political rallies and making local Massachusetts friends. We never lost touch. Denny's parents planned a trip to St. Croix one winter and took me along to keep Denny entertained. It was another episode where we were back to being just kids, misbehaving and doing our best to get by. Denny met Marty, an aspiring cartoonist and graphic artist at Merrimack. They would eventually marry. My timeline may be skewed, but in the mid-70s, Denny and Marty moved to Northampton, Mass, and Denny was taking classes at UMass. I was in a graduate program there and had moved to Amherst and later to Northampton with Philip Miller. We went to Denny's and Marty's wedding in Kennebunkport, Maine, where I was one of her bridesmaids. It was uncharacteristically traditional for Denny, but she felt that it pleased her family. It was a success. Social life in Northampton continued for a number of years. I was teaching. Denny was supposed to be in school. We went to movies, plays, concerts, and parties. Philip and I went on an extended sailing adventure and later settled in the Miami area. Denny and Marty evidently had their ups and downs and eventually divorced. Through letters and random phone calls, we stayed in touch, but the years passed. Denny met Richard Pushkin in Northampton and they eventually married. Denny was settling into a new and different life. She had to deal with aging and ailing parents. She had 2 younger sisters and a brother in various stages of life. Thankfully, she had the beach house in Seabrook, New Hampshire, where she found respite from much of the family upheaval that came with resolving family responsibilities. In Western Mass, Denny discovered her love for dogs, labs in particular. Her beloved dog Ty was a constant companion for her. When he passed away, she found success fostering other labs and became active in canine rescue organizations. She spent winters in beautiful rural Sunderland, Mass, and summers on the beach in Seabrook, New Hampshire. After Philip died, I spent parts of summer vacations with my sister and her family in New Hampshire. I always made an effort to visit with Denny, and we were able to catch up. We knew each other's histories, families, and struggles. We were unequivocally connected for better or worse. It's impossible to do justice to characterizing Denny's life. She was both inspiring and infuriating. She was a loyal confidant and an exasperating individualist. We have all had our challenges, striving to find success and happiness. Denny was a passionate and opinionated crusader for all causes for justice and equality. I do miss her and hope that she's resting in peace. And here's my rose for Denny. Thank you. And now Sarah Bowen Blades is going to speak about Cindy Niziak. And I'm going to unmute. I mean, mute. Is Sarah here?
This is Pam Huttenberg. I'm not sure, is Sarah there? Let
I
me,
think Sarah's on mute. I think Sarah's here, but she's on mute.
Sarah, can you unmute your microphone?
Can you hear me? Are you
There she
there?
is. Oh, there.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
there you are.
Here we go the second time. My memories of Cindy Niziak are somewhat faded, to say the least, given that we are here at our 50th, however, or 51st now. However, one sticks out in my mind that paints the picture. We can all remember taking modern dance as preps with Mrs. Rubio. Her job was an uphill battle. She was supposed to refine the way we comported ourselves and transform us into graceful young women with ramrod straight posture. We, of course, viewed the whole thing as a gigantic joke and a required class if you were, as you remember, an Abbot rabbit. I can remember the expression on Cindy's face when she was in the class, and it reflected that sentiment exactly. There was the mischievous twinkle in her eye that said, "I'll do this, but I definitely don't take it seriously." We were all issued the basic black leotard, white tights and slippers in preparation for dance. We were marched into the gym and lined up at the bar. There we went through a series of positions and then on to various movements from plie to saute to glisse. Cindy had more natural grace than many of us. Her hand was always in perfect position with index finger elongated and her arm arched overhead. She was tall, slender, and coordinated. Cindy could have been a star student in Mrs. Rubio's eyes, but in typical fashion, her mind was on other things. And here is a memory that Susie Rowan wrote about Cindy Niziak. My most vivid memory of Cindy predates our time together at Abbot. We were both Andover residents, attending public school and living only a couple of miles apart. With working parents and sisters, Gail and Lynn, already attending Abbott, Cindy and I had the afternoons free of parental and sibling supervision. This particular afternoon, we were hanging around at my house and decided to bake something adventurous. We plunged into the cupboards for available ingredients and prepared a graham cracker crust bottom. We then decided to cook up some tapioca filling and proceeded to raid the refrigerator to find anything we could to dunk into the tapioca. It started with apples, then raisins, then berries, then bananas, then nuts. But it was one big smorgasbord of stuff loaded in with the tapioca. Finally, we whipped up some cream to top off the pie and topped it off finally with maraschino cherry. It was delicious. We decided to call our concoction Sue Sin Apple Surprise Supreme Delight. This was classic Cindy, mischievous, expansive, over the top, and downright delicious. Hanging around Cindy meant giving up any and all restrictions and feeding the imagination with abandon. We were so proud of ourselves and got such great reviews from our respective families that we vowed to make it again. We never did. Another signature Cindy trait. Once accomplished, time to move on to some other mischief. Never repeat. The next remarks will be read by Sandy Uri, written by Gay Armstead for Jan Bailey LaRosa.
I'm reading on behalf of Gay Armston. Some of you may recall Jan Bailey, who joined us in our 10th grade year and did not graduate with us, but she was a character, and those of us who knew her and lived with her in Abbey House knew her quite well. So this is, these are Gay's words. And she was Jan's roommate. So she goes, Jan and I were suite mates in Abbey House junior year, 10th grade in Abbott terminology. From my naive perspective, she was very sophisticated and a little wild, a perception I think she liked to cultivate. She had a fine fashion sense, which fascinated me. And she seemed to know so many things about life that I just didn't know. For example, we took the wrong bus back from Boston one time and ended up having to transfer in some town with a long wait. Jan sprinted across the street to a hair salon and had her hair washed. It was to be a dance night. I was amazed one could do that. I remember that she liked to draw and was quite good. Some of those drawings, she confessed, were done under the influence of some substance. Maybe, maybe not, since she liked to shock straight-laced me. Jan and hallmate Yvonne Bissell spent many a late night together in the room that adjoined mine. I was given to understand there was a lot of talk about sex. One night I was awakened to Jan and Yvonne sitting on my bed, trying to get me to say secret things. I wasn't amused, but they had a great laugh. After junior year, I didn't spend time with Jan. Looking at what's been written about her, I see that her early creativity and design sense carried with her throughout her life and must have provided her with much satisfaction. Thanks, Gay.
Oh, Abbot, beautiful guide of our youth, girded with sacrifice, lighted with truth. Thee will thy daughters praise, all else above. Oh, Abbot, beautiful mother, we love. Oh, Abbot, beautiful memories dear, thrill through our hearts as they turn to thee here. Mother whose tenderness, wisdom, and power constant have guided us here to this hour. Oh, Abbot, beautiful, we made a friend, trusted and true, upon whom to depend. And all these moments grow fonder with time, stories so dear, full of memories sublime. Oh no. Thank you. Can you all hear me? Okay. I'm Pauline Surf. I'm going to talk about my dear friend Jenny, who was my friend for 48 years. Hard to believe, she never changed. Well, she changed a little. But since I have only 3 minutes or so, this is going to be a tiny, tiny sliver of Jenny, just as all of us have to pick a sliver. Jenny was extremely funny. She probably couldn't speak 3 sentences without making fun of herself, you know, quite literally. She was amazing in that respect. She was very loving, very thoughtful and considerate, and at times extremely elusive, in that sometimes she would not pick up the phone. This happened frequently for 48 years. It never mattered much because I knew we'd always get back in touch. The last year of her life, it mattered a lot, and it was difficult. So beginning in 2013, when Abby Hale died, a small group of us decided to
try to meet together every year. And we were pretty successful. We skipped a year or two, but we were pretty good. In 2016, we were planning to get together in October at my summer house in Westport, New York. New York, Sandy, not Vermont, but close. At the end of August, so like 6 weeks before we were to meet, Jenny sent us this note. Sweet girls, girls with a Z. I don't know for certain, but suspect that I will not be able to join you guys this fall, which makes me very sad. I love how we all connect with such ease and a bit of grace. It sustains me. On Friday, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Still trying to process, having a lot of tests, results of which are worse news. Not a lot of options, but you can be sure that my wig will be rocking and I'm shortening all my skirts. Question, what can a woman over 40 wear? Answer, anything she effing wants. I will really try to make it up to Westport and love you all. So we met in New York City instead of Westport, hoping that we'd be able to see Jenny, although she became ill quite rapidly. She did finally feel well enough one day to see us for about half an hour. She clearly wasn't 100%, but I remember so vividly, within 5 minutes, I was sitting next to her and she looked over at me in this very considering, thoughtful way and said, nice highlights. And it wasn't just a compliment. She wasn't just saying, oh, that looks good. It was like, that was a good decision. You know, it was like it was very Jenny. So we left after half an hour. She told us she was tired. As soon as we left, I started crying. I am going to get through this. I was pretty sure it would be the last time I saw her. It wasn't, but it was the last time I spoke to her. I kept calling over the next few months, trying to see her again. She never picked up. I live in New Jersey. One of my best friends was dying an hour away and I couldn't see her. 6 months later, I learned Jenny was in hospice. And oh my God, I'm sorry. I managed to see her a few days before she died. She was completely unconscious, but she moved her head toward me when I talked to her. And I think I'm quite sure she heard me. I've thought many times over the years why Jenny was so reluctant to talk to me or see me those last few months. And I like to think she just didn't want to say goodbye. I thought I would close by playing a voicemail message she left a few days after she got her diagnosis, because no one can do Jenny like Jenny. Hang on one second. This was left September 2nd, 2016. Hope you can hear this.
Pauline, hi, it's Jenny. Some news, huh? It's crazy. And thank God for Donald Trump, because I can totally tune out and tune into his outrageousness and get angry, and you know, I'm feeling okay now. So, and I thank you for calling and your wonderful messages. And please look at my website and pick out something, because I want you to have it. I'll speak soon, sweetie. Okay, bye.
Okay, now Gay Luster will speak about Beth Andrews.
Hi, I'm here. This is Gay. I guess you can hear me and see me. Pauline, thank you very much. That was great. I'm going to talk about Beth. Beth and I met on our first day at Abbot in the fall of 1967. We were assigned to Cutler House, a total of 11 girls. Beth came from Toronto. Sue Johnston and I came from New Canaan, Connecticut. I thought Beth was very cool because she was so much more sophisticated than I was. I immediately liked her. As it turned out, her family had previously lived in New Canaan, and while she was at Abbott, they moved back to New Canaan. So Beth and Sue and I have always stayed in touch. Beth was adventurous and fun to be with, and we had a lot of fun together. She was very creative, a natural artist. After Abbott, she went to Sarah Lawrence. After Sarah Lawrence, she lived for a year in North Carolina as an apprentice to a potter. She then moved to upstate New York, where she started her own pottery studio. She lived with other craftspeople in a rustic farmhouse. She met her future husband, David Hoffman, a woodworker, in 1977. By 1978, they were living together, living the counterculture life. They heated their house with wood, which they cut and split themselves in freezing northern New York State. We always had to wear parkas when we were in the house. They married in September 1980. The marriage brought Beth her stepdaughter, Jessica, who she always considered to be her own. In 1981, they moved to Acton, Mass. David sold his woodworking business and entered Harvard Law School. Beth built a kiln on her property, and continued to work as a potter. She also had a passion for organic gardening and had a large garden on the property. Their children, Jacob and Lily, were born. While she had many interests throughout her life, she always said that raising their 3 children was the most important and satisfying accomplishment of her life. In 1991, Beth and David joined a group building a co-housing community in Acton on a 20-acre property. Beth lived there for the rest of her life. During the years at New View, Beth pursued her passion for photography and participated in a number of exhibitions in the Boston area. After Lily was born, Beth decided to pursue a career in clinical psychology. She enrolled in a program at Simmons and graduated with an MSW degree in 1992. She loved her practice, and in 2000, she became a director of family associates at Merrimack Valley in Chelmsford. Beth retired from practice in December 2012 because of the side effects of cancer treatment. She passed away in September of 2014. Beth was a potter, a photographer, a gardener, a poet, a psychologist, a wife, and a mother. And to me, she was a very good friend. I have one last word. Her yearbook quote was especially perfect, and I'll repeat it here. I feel there is an angel inside me who I'm constantly shocking. That's Beth. Thank you. Now the next speaker is Sandy Perkin, talking about Abbey Hale.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Sandy Perkin Querum, and I'm remembering Abbey Hale. Many of my remarks about Abby will be a snapshot in time, the time being our senior year at Abbott, when we were roommates and very close. We were each other's person during that tumultuous time, when everything had an air of intensity, including relationships. We lived in a bubble full of drama and secrets, along with the more mundane worries about getting into college. And I think the heightened sense of angst made all of us feel special. But the thing about Abby is that she was. After graduation, Abby and I saw each other less and less. Our relationship, the victim of geography and differing pursuits. So I can't personally talk about the many years that we were apart. But her life was so filled with meaning and purpose and accomplishments that I have to include some of them. Some facts. Abby graduated from University of Vermont and received her physician assistant degree from UCal Davis. She practiced for 30 years in Burlington, much of it at the Community Health Center, also at the Vermont Women's Health Center, and worked for the Homeless Health Project. She was an untiring advocate for women and the homeless. Abby lived her principles, and the only things more important to her than her work were her children, Silas and Shilpa, with her former partner, Kelly. Abby died in 2013 of early onset Alzheimer's after a 6-year battle with the disease. And some of you may remember Abby at our 2010 reunion, as friendly as ever. My husband, Chris, was particularly taken with her, and they spent hours talking, her evident confusion only adding to her charm. But we know that the struggle was real. 2 years before her death, Abby participated in a documentary entitled "There's No Hole in My Head," in which she described what the disease had been like for her personally and the impact on her work and her family. It couldn't have been easy for her, but I imagine that as a clinician and a really caring human, she wanted to help people to understand this increasingly prevalent disease. So those are some of the facts about Abby's life. But I find myself going back to senior year when we had so much fun together. When she would come to my basketball classes for the sole purpose of jumping up and down and laughing at my inept dribbling. And I could never get her back because Abby was good at everything. A good athlete, a good musician. She played a wicked sax, smart. But she was also always kind, and her humor was never biting, rather silly and infectious. I don't know if this is true of anyone else, but the older I get, the more memories of Abbot loom large. And my memories of Abby are some of my most cherished. She is truly missed. Abby, this rose is for you. Now, Margaret Cheney will read a poem by Beth Andrews.
Thanks, Sandy. So before I read Beth's poem, I just want to reflect on the unusual nature of this memorial, at least for me. When I saw the list of names, I realized that with just a couple of exceptions, including Abby, I hadn't seen these classmates since senior year when we were all girls together. So to me, they are forever 17, just as we all were that year, poised on the edge of our lives. They are all in my mind forever young and full of promise. Beth wrote this poem in the fall of senior year. Her original title was not Summer, but Summer Triad, and it was written to describe the experience of 3 friends having a last golden day at the beach before school, before the reality and responsibilities of September returned. It was revised slightly for this memorial to expand the notion of just 3 friends to a group of friends, and so more symbolically to friendship writ large. It's one last day at the beach, but really one last day in the sunshine of friendship and youth before the required entry to reality. It's an experience we all share because we were all girls together. And here's the poem, Summer, by Beth Andrews. We woke with morning eyes to feel the wind caress our bodies. The smell of salt was present now, the taste upon our lips. Our movements were slow as we rose from the sand, grinding grain against grain. The seagull sounds across the bay were summer sounds, to be forgotten as autumn came. But we listened with care to the seagull's song and memorized the words. And we walked that summer day, brown legs against the beige of sand and sand and sand. We drank the sun and swallowed in warmth and remembered its kindness and remembered the summer things one does when one is many and many are one. And excitement was blue sky and boredom was gray and nothing mattered but friendship. The day grew old and no one said it's time to go. But we felt the September air crawl in. We turned a half circle and ran through the sand away from the beach and the waves and the sun. For we knew it was autumn and summer was done. And now Pam Huttenberg will remember Priscilla Sanford.
Thank you, Margaret. That was well done. Thank you very much. I'm Pam Huttenberg, and I want to talk a little bit about Priscilla Sanford. Priscilla died in 2008. She was 55, way too young to have left us. In reading the sympathy notes read online, left by those who attended her funeral, you see the same descriptive words: her kindness, her generosity, and her sense of humor. These are certainly true, but I remember a few more. Priscilla was honest, direct, confident, enthusiastic, and oh so important, happy. She was completely comfortable with who she was. That was true at 16 and true at 54, the last time I saw her. Priscilla and I arrived at Abbot in the fall of 1968, entering the senior mid class. I was apprehensive starting a new school. Not Priscilla. She had no such concerns and thought mine were totally silly. We were roommates and over time adjusted to each other. There are two stories I want to share, which to me describe Priscilla. The first was in 1969. At Abbot, my home was in Freeport, the Bahamas. In December 1969, during our break, Priscilla came to visit. Perhaps you remember Tiny Tim and Miss Vicky married that December on the Johnny Carson show, for those who can remember Johnny Carson, and honeymooned in Freeport. Priscilla discovered that Tiny Tim was performing at a discotheque in Freeport. Full of enthusiasm and twisting my arm, Priscilla persuaded me to go to see him. I just shook my head, waved my arms, and off we went. Tiny Tim and Miss Vicky were sitting at a table alone. I can still feel Priscilla gripping my arm and pushing me to the table. She sat down and proceeded to talk to Tiny Tim. I was completely mortified. She loved every minute of it. She just laughed and laughed. The second story took place in 2007. During the late 80s and until the early 2000s, Priscilla and I both worked at JP Morgan. She in London and I in New York. I traveled frequently to London and often met with Priscilla. Our friendship really grew over this period. By the fall of 2007, she was quite ill, having battled cancer for some years. She picked me up from the train station near her home and with alarming enthusiasm insisted on visiting the boarding school I had attended when I was 12 years old. Once again, I just shook my head, waved my arms, and off we went. I've never understood why she wanted to do this, but she wanted to see classrooms, dorms, everything. Later at her home, after having dinner with her husband, Ben, she asked me, with a giant glint in her eye, if I would like her to take off her wig so I could see her bald head. That was so Priscilla, so ill, and yet laughing so hard at my reaction to her remarkable and outlandish suggestion. Gosh, I really loved her then and really admired her. I think of Priscilla sometimes, and when I do, I smile. Being around her made me happy, and I truly miss her. I particularly miss her in December when I sit and do my holiday cards, because always she chastised me for sending her a Christmas card in January instead of December. She was a wonderful friend, And I wish that I had been as good a friend to her as she has been to me. And now Leslie Breed will talk about Laura Gavin. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? I think I am. Yes? Okay. This is about Laura Garvin. Laura came to Abbott as a prep in the fall of 1966. I always thought Laura was quite, because she was from Florida, which seemed very remote at the time, or maybe it was her devil-may-care attitude that captivated me. She had a wry smile and a sense of the absurd that really be showing appreciation for her outlandish commentary. If you'll remember, Abbott Academy in the late 60s was a place full of rules. How many days you kept the same napkin in its napkin ring before getting a fresh one, how long you could linger at tiffin every morning, where to sit at daily morning chapel in order to be counted, to quickly stand when an adult entered the room where you were, where to sign out when leaving campus on a strictly prescribed walk, and of course, what to wear on all occasions. Tie shoes for classes, no loafers ever, dresses or skirts with stockings for dinner, and don't even think about jeans. All of this was to change, but certainly for our prep and junior years, we lived under the yoke of 1,000 rules. To say that Laura Garvin rebelled against all of these rules would be an understatement. I remember one episode in particular. One evening in 10th grade, Laura was caught not wearing stockings to dinner and sent back to her room to put them on. And I believe this was before the introduction of pantyhose. So stockings and garters were the only option, was the only option. Laura was outraged. She just couldn't understand why anyone should care about her bare legs. She fussed and she fumed and finally came up with a plan. She said to me, "You know, nobody has said anything about wearing hats to dinner. I think I'll work on a hat." The next day, she took a grapefruit half and its maraschino cherry embellishment from the Bondi's dining room back to After cleaning the grapefruit half, she secured the cherry to the top with a toothpick, added 2 red, and tied it under her chin in a bow. She waited for everyone to be seated at dinner with a beatific smile on her lips. Her fellow students adored it, the bravery to make a point about attire, and I have never lost the memory of her perfect posture as she paraded through the dining room. I'm sure she was punished, but I know she didn't regret a minute of her grapefruit hat show. Laura was constantly in trouble for challenging arbitrary event that caused her dismissal from Abbott came at the very end of winter term in 1968. Winter was a consistently hard time at Abbott, cold and dark and full of stress. We had just completed exams and everyone was exhausted. Although spring break was commencing the very next day, it's a dour mood. Suddenly, as people were settling down to their meals, we could all coming through the dining room speaker system. Smiles of wonderment broke out around the tables. Spring was coming, all was okay. We were going to make it to break after all. This was Laura's doing. We never found out how she accomplished this optimistic feat, but it was cause to end her tenure at Abbott Academy. She didn't return from spring break. To this day, though, I don't her goofy smile and her unending sense of humor and outrage. And now we will hear from Debbie Pruden Lathrop about Ronnie Ingram. Oh, and this rose is for you, Laura.
Debbie, are you there?
I am here.
We're not hearing you, but we're hearing you now.
Okay, I'm here. Ronnie was a sweet, slightly crazy flower child in an age of hippies. Her wild hair surrounded her petite features and her ready smile. I can best picture her in the senior parlor, smoking nasty, harsh cigarettes. I think they were Gauloise. When Ronnie talked to you, she talked only to you. She would look you squarely in the eyes and reach out her hand to hold your arm. When she made contact with you, you could see it and feel it. Although I had very few classes with Ronnie, we were in Sue Husmer's philosophy class together. And like everyone in that class, the Moody Blues were a much-loved band. But when I think of Ronnie, I really think more of Donovan. She loved the song, Happiness Runs. The lyrics to the chorus, for those who might not remember them, state, happiness runs in a circular motion. Thoughts are like a little boat upon the sea. Everybody is a part of everything anyway. You can have everything if you let yourself be. Letting yourself be was a theme that ran through our years at Abbot. Ronnie personified that theme. I saw her twice after we graduated, both times on the vineyard. The first time she was living at her parents' house, having been recently diagnosed with her brain tumor. She forgot some things, but her smile still dominated her face, in spite of what she knew was coming. The last time I saw Ronnie, there was no recognition on her face when I walked into her hospital room. I sat next to her, introduced myself, and still saw no recognition. Then I started to sing songs of Abbot. That famous smile crept to her lips, and she hummed along with me. She remembered Abbot. When she waved goodbye, I had the vision of the old Ronnie as the smile never left her lips. Together, we had rekindled memories of our school that we all loved so much. And we have memories of her that attest to the fact that everything is a part of everything anyway. She is part of all of us who knew her. Here's for you, Ronnie.
Good night, good night. Time since the morning call, sweet resty since to all. Time since the morning call, time since the sweet resty since to all. Time since the morning, sweet resty since to all. Good night, good night. Time since the morning call, sweet resty since to all. Time since the morning call, time since sweet resty since to all. Time since the
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Spicer Jankowski, and today I'm remembering Debbie Burton.
Debbie and I bonded as fellow Washingtonians, as one often did when you came from the same town. She and I saw quite a bit of each other over the holidays and on vacations. I was invited to her lovely home in Chevy Chase, where her father, a prominent communications lawyer, collected antique farm implements. They were all over the house. And to a 17-year-old, that was very interesting. Debbie was a genuinely nice person with a very easy smile. She came to Abbott in 1967 and she did very well. She went on to Mount Holyoke. She was hoping to go to graduate school and become a teacher when on March 13th, 1977, a terrible thing happened. Debbie and a friend were headed home from a movie, and while crossing Massachusetts Avenue in Cambridge, she was hit and killed by a drunk driver, as was her friend. Debbie was only 24 years old. According to Sandy Urey's remembrances in the published reunion yearbook, the driver was fined $1,000, that's $500 per victim, and ended up serving only 6 months in jail. Debbie's parents, William and Eliga Burton, wrote an op-ed piece in the Boston Globe about their loss and the light sentence of the man who killed their daughter. Also, they urged that the laws pertaining to vehicle homicide be reviewed. Hers was a life taken too soon, but my memories of Debbie live on from a day we spent together before our senior year. It was the summer of 1969, the summer of Chappaquiddick, the summer of the moon landing, really big summer. I was a governess on Cape Cod, working 6 days a week. Debbie knew that I was unhappy, and so she and her mother made a point of making the long drive through Cape traffic to Wiano, where I was, to come to my rescue on my 1 day off a week, Thursday. They treated me to a fabulous lunch and lots of shopping. I remember that Debbie and I both bought Dr. Scholl's sandals. Remember those? They were the rage that summer. I've never forgotten that act of kindness that Debbie showed me. After college, I ran into Debbie in Georgetown. We promised to stay in touch. She was killed shortly thereafter. And while we were friends at Abbott and I had visited her home in Chevy Chase, my most vivid memory of Debbie is on that sunny day on the Cape 52 years ago. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. And now Karen Giesman-Luffman will be remembered by Susie Gunn Hassedson. Thank you. Is Susie there?
Susie, are you there? Okay, this is Pam. I have been in contact with Susie. For those of you who don't know, Susie was or maybe still is, the ambassador for El Salvador in Israel. And I did have some contact with her while she was in Jerusalem over the last couple weeks. And she was hoping to get back to El Salvador today, but hasn't been able to. She did pass on her remarks about Karen, and I'd like to read them to you. These are Susie Gunn's words. I am honored and touched to get a chance to talk about Karen. Unfortunately, my memory is not what it used to be. So I write not from the mind, but from the heart. Karen was my friend from our first meeting at Abbott and until her untimely death. It was in September 1967 that 3 Central American girls got together in the Abbott dorms. Karen from Guatemala, Sylvia Joseph, and I from El Salvador. Sylvia and I were friends practically from birth, and there we met Karen. It was impossible not to like her from the start. Her smile, her laughter, and her energy were contagious. Karen was born in Guatemala, daughter of German immigrants, the youngest of 3 children. Like Sylvia and I, she attended the American school back home so that we knew English well, or so we thought, but perfect it wasn't. Karen was an outstanding athlete, a champion tennis player, and as such, she was chosen to give out sports awards in an assembly. Before she had to read out names, she went over them, and there it was, the name Penelope. How do you pronounce that? It seemed obvious. Penelope is like pen and elope. Put together, pen, elope. How were we to know that Penelope was Penelope? In spite of sad goodbyes, we were sure we would meet each other again, considering our home countries were so close. Right after graduation, Karen and her parents went on a skiing trip to Switzerland. Karen met this handsome Brit, love at first sight, married him, and followed him to Brazil, where his job took him. They returned to UK with babies. We corresponded regularly while our children were growing up until she passed away, but we never saw each other after Abbot. 50 years from graduation day, I would like to quote Eleanor Roosevelt. Quote, "Many people will walk in and out of your life, but only true friends will leave footprints in your heart." Thank you.
Blessings to all of you who have graced our friends today with beautiful words of tribute. Thank you so much. It's now time for the rest of us to add our own thoughts. If you would like to share what's in your heart with us, please simply unmute your mic and start speaking. Or if you'd prefer, you can write your thoughts in the chat, which just opened up, for all to read. Let us also be comfortable with silence. Silence is never truly silent. It gives us an opportunity to reflect and prepare to speak. So now I'll stop talking and make room for you.
This is Maura Markley Pollock. I have a memory of Laura Garvin that just surfaced yesterday, and it is so Laura. We both took softball as our spring sport, and neither one of us was particularly good at it, but that didn't really matter at Abbott. You were on a team and you played whether you were good or bad. But we were playing, and Laura must have been on the other side, because I remember this vividly from sitting on the bench on the sidelines. Laura was playing shortstop, and her friend Hillary Bennett, also a member of our class, was playing third base. And in the comedy of errors that ensued after someone hit a ball, the ball was thrown to Hillary and it went past her, or she dropped it, and she's scrambling to get it. And Laura, wanting to help out her friend, steps into the line between second and third base and just starts waving her hands and blocking, all but tackling whoever was running from second base to third base, and prevents them from getting to third base until Hillary can get the ball and step on the base. Laura thought, great, this is, I've saved the day. Miss Ritchie stepped in and said, you can't do that. But, for Laura, it was never about the rules. It was always about friendship.
I just want to add that Laura literally left her mark on me, because I had been wishing for pierced ears and had been forbidden by my parents. And she said, "Oh, forget about that. You'll love it." So she got some ice cubes from the kitchen, and I don't know if she sterilized the needle or not, but she numbed my earlobes, poked it in, and it was done. She didn't believe, as you said, and others said, in rules. So I still bear the mark.
I just want to say that it was so wonderful to hear from all of you and to see all of you, even those who didn't speak. And it's kind of hard to imagine now what this would have been like actually real in person, the way we planned it last year. But I just want to thank all you guys who spoke. You were wonderful, and your voices did not shake. And I want to raise a glass to you for that. I don't know how you did it, but
Pauline,
this was special.
can you hear me, Pauline?
Yes.
Everybody who put this together did a phenomenal job, and I'm sorry I didn't help with this, but I am also glad I got on to see the tributes you have made to our classmates. It's brought back a sense of belonging again to Abbott, which was hard to do when you lived on the West Coast for, a long time. And but anyway, I just want to say hi to everybody, and I'm glad we got to know how our friends died and the mark they made on the class, their classmates, our classmates. So I thank you for that, for all your work.
Wonderful
You
to
too, you too, Adele. What?
Wonderful to see you.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Wonderful to see you too. So anyway, I'll let somebody else talk.
Hi, this is Janet. I wanted to say, can I speak, or is that okay?
Yeah.
Let me see. Debbie's tribute to Ronnie Ingram really made me smile, because it reminded me that Sue Hosmer was my first advisor at Abbott, and she later became my sister-in-law. We were close throughout the years, and she helped me raise my children, and she was a wonderful mentor and friend and relative. And I would like to remember her today as well. She passed away a few years ago, and I sorely miss her. For all of those who remember her. Thanks.
Muted. Janet, I just want to say that Sue Hosmer meant the world. Even though I know we're not here to talk about Sue, but how often do we get together?
Sure we are.
Hi, Betty.
Hosmer was the first person to tell me I was smart. Nobody had ever said that to me. And I remember where we were standing, we were like outside near the front door of Draper. I mean, I will never forget it. She was an amazing person. And Debbie Pruden, I have no memory of you being in that class, because all I remember is being at Sue's house listening to the Moody Blues. That's amazing. Okay, I'll be quiet now.
Sue was a teacher, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, before we close out, and I don't want to cut memories off, but I do want to thank the group that organized this.
So I would like to thank.
Go ahead, Leslie.
There must be something wrong. I was just about to say, Sandy, that I really wanted to thank the committee that worked on this memorial committee. I think they did a marvelous job. I am blown away by the music aspect. I remember, I especially remember the Good Night round. I cannot sing a line, but that brought back wonderful memories of, I don't know when we sang that, but I guess after events were over, and it was so meaningful to hear. So, and I also loved the picture gallery before everybody spoke. I saw the pictures and I thought, uh-oh, how are we going to get through this? Because they brought tears to my eyes. So thanks to the committee, it was a really meaningful service. Thank you.
And can I just name the members of the committee? And Adele, help me if I leave anyone out. Adele, Pam, Pauline, Maura, and am I missing
Debbie.
something?
Debbie.
Well, and Debbie, and then honest to goodness, Gay, Debbie, and Dury singing those songs. I admire your courage and your talent, and it was wonderful to hear the alma mater and the good night round. The good night round, Leslie, we did sing it after almost every event we had, whether it was the holiday vespers or the Christmas vespers, or and almost any major event ended with them dividing us up and singing that round as a group. And so lots of nice memories, but really thank you to the people who put this together. This is very meaningful and just beautiful, beautiful.
This brought out my memories, not only of the people that we're remembering, but that how big a part of my life Abbot was. Leslie mentioned the rules, and one time, the beginning of graduate school, mid-'80s, right? We're all sitting around a table and one of the teachers walks in and I pop up, hit my feet. That teacher was nice to me the whole rest of my career. But I hadn't even realized how, it brings back the connections to the people, and it brings back the connections to Abbott. And I remember sitting in our graduation, the 50-year class came in, and we would all sing the first verse of "Oh Abbott Beautiful," but I certainly didn't know any of the words. But they all did. They all knew all the words to all the verses by heart. And here we are. This is a wonderful service.
Anybody else would like to say something? Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. And now let's be silent for a minute as we watch a movie made specially for this occasion. You may have noticed that our speakers accompanied their eulogies with a single red rose. Well, I saw a pink rose and I saw a number of roses. Anyway, please suspend your disbelief as the magic of the internet conjoins the spirits of our friends into one beautiful bouquet. You're all welcome to stay on this Zoom. There will be a breakout room for those of you who wish to share with your fellow classmates, or you can stay in this main room for some more 60s iconic music that we love so much, and the photos as well. And if you wish, at 4:45, you can join the Phillips class of 1970 for their memorial service. To Pauline, Pam, Debbie, Maura, and Judy, and Janet, Sarah, Gay Armston, Gay Luster, Sandy, Yuri, Sandy Perkin, Leslie, Lisa, Susie, Dury, and Margaret, thank you so much for your contributions to this last hour. You have made this moment of remembrance a thing of beauty. And to borrow from John Keats, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. As the loveliness of our memories increases, it will never pass into nothingness, but will always keep a bower quiet for us. And to conclude, I loosely quote the lyrics of Harriet Nash, Abbot, class of 1927. Shadows are falling. We gather here to say, farewell, girls, for one more year. Friendships we formed in that day will live for aye. Dear blue and white girls, we bid you goodbye.